Hi, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm super excited to take you along with me to Istanbul, Turkey. This is the fifth and final video in my travel and document series from my summer vacation, but I will have more in this series coming up soon. Let's go ahead and dive in. Before heading to Istanbul, I am going to set up my journal for my trip. I am going to add some label stickers to identify Istanbul and my weekly, and some magazine cutouts to identify my dailies, because I'm not going to bring that with me. For a detailed look at everything I'm bringing with me, check out my Berlin vlog, because that was the first stop on my vacation, and so I shared a bit more into my packing in that video. Okay, so our first day in Istanbul was mostly a travel day. We flew from Budapest, Hungary to Istanbul, which wasn't that bad of a flight, but it still took a lot of the day. And then we took a very long car ride from the airport to our hotel. Istanbul is a huge city, so it took a while to get anywhere. There's a ton of traffic. There are a ton of people everywhere. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. Just for some context, Istanbul has over 15 million people living there, which is much larger than New York City. It's about, a 1.5 New York cities in terms of population, but it's also just way more condensed. As someone who's from New York, and who has lived in Manhattan, it was still so overwhelming. But that first day, we just kind of took in the city. We saw some views from the top of a restaurant and went to bed. Day 2 started bright and early. We got some coffee and some scones. It was a little rough finding coffee in the morning that was not Turkish coffee, which is not for me, but that's okay. And then we headed over to the Blue Mosque. The main area near our hotel had the Blue Mosque and the Hagia Sophia right by each other. And those are kind of the two main mosques to see in the city. This right here is the Blue Mosque, which is newer than the Hagia Sophia, which is extremely old. And it's called the Blue Mosque because the exterior has some blue on the dome, but it's just beautiful. It is also an operational mosque, so there are people praying when you go in, and you do have to wear a headscarf, which was just a very different but interesting experience for me. We walked by the Hippodrome of Constantinople, which is this tower that was built in like the year 300. And then we went over to the Hagia Sophia. Look at all the kitties. The Hagia Sophia was built in the year 500 by the Roman Empire and is so old. It was just incredible how much history the Hagia Sophia had. It was originally a church for the Roman Empire that was Latin Catholic, and then it got turned into a mosque in 1453 after the fall of Constantinople. But it still has some of the remnants from the original. It's just breathtaking. Next, we went to the Grand Bazaar, and the Grand Bazaar was, oh my goodness, so much sensory overload. We didn't buy anything, but it was definitely worth a look. I was a little disappointed in all of the Instagram shots I had seen of like the lamp stores. You can see some of them here, but they all have these big, like, no cameras. So I couldn't really get a great photo, but I was still happy that I saw it. And of course, wandering around Istanbul, the biggest thing I had seen online before going was all the cats everywhere. And oh my gosh, it's so true. They are everywhere. We took a lot of breaks in between exploring. It was pretty hot. There's just a lot of people. And for someone like me, sensory overload just gets to be too overwhelming. So we did take a lot of breaks back in the room where I could work on my journal and kind of process what had just happened and just relax. We also got a lot of snacks along the way. We got a gyro, we got some baklava and some street corn. It was all delicious, but more about that later. Then we went to the Basilica Cistern, which is this underground storage place for water that was once again so old from the time of Constantinople, and now you can walk through it, and it was just kind of breathtaking to see. We then went and got some ice cream for a snack and relaxed in the room till dinner. Dinner the first night, we went to a place called Bitlisli. If you ever go to Istanbul, I highly recommend it. It was amazing food. But I did not video much of my food, so I apologize for that. While I was back in the room, though, I did go through all of my ephemera and work on my journal. You can see some of this in the video. Unfortunately, I didn't have a great filming setup for my hotel room. And in these travel vlogs, I was doing a little bit better with filming my setup for journaling in the room earlier in my vacation. But at this point, I was like pretty tired. I was still really enjoying the vacation, but when we were going in the hotel room, I really needed more of that time to just rest and process what happened rather than focus on filming. But you can see a lot of the ephemera that I got, and I was just thinking about how I was going to include things in my journal. The first day was so fun. We saw so much, and I was very happy at that point. We still had 2 more days because Istanbul is a huge city with so much to see. Day 3, which was our second full day, started out with coffee and then walking around. So the first day we had really kind of stayed close to our hotel in the neighborhood where we were staying near the Blue Mosque, which is kind of the main touristy area. But the second day we ventured out and walked around the city. We walked up a hill to the Suleimani Mosque, which here you can see it is gorgeous. This mosque, I think, was very, very much worth the visit because it's up a hill. It is just not as crowded. The Blue Mosque and the Hagia Sophia got very, very crowded. But this one, we were some of the only people there. We did go early in the morning, which I highly recommend if you are exploring Istanbul or really any city, to get out early to beat the crowds. Our next stop was the Balat neighborhood, which again was a little bit of a walk, and it's kind of an Instagram trap, but I'm still happy I saw it. There's colorful steps, umbrellas, and colorful houses, which you can see here are not as pretty in person as they are in cleaned up photos. Still all the cats. It was kind of hot, and we did rest for some iced lattes, but I'm still happy that we explored and felt safe wandering around the city. Next, we took the bus over to see Galata Tower, which is on the other side of some of the water. It's still on the European side, but the city's kind of split into 3 sections. And we went up in the Galata Tower to see views of the city, which were just gorgeous. And this tower was very pretty. It was definitely worth a visit. It's a little expensive to go up there. The city itself is pretty cheap, but a lot of the touristy things are very expensive, and they do typically charge in euros, which is not great for me using the US dollar, but it still was very, very much worth going up inside this tower. And you can see these tiny stairs to go down, which were actually really kind of neat. Next, we walked to Istiklal Street, which is another kind of touristy area. Istiklal Street was the most like something that was familiar to me. It was this little shopping street. They had a trolley and some shops and a cute little church, and we just kind of wandered around. We got some lunch. We saw some different shops, and then it ends at this Taksim Meydana, which is like a city square that again has another beautiful mosque. We didn't go in this one. It is an operational mosque. A lot of them are, but they do expect tourists to come in and see them, which is very gracious of them. But of course, you have to bring a headscarf to wear inside, which I was more than happy to do, and to get to kind of experience the culture. Look at this adorable cat. Then we took the train back to the room to relax, and I journaled about our day before heading out to dinner. Before I get to day 4, though, I am going to tell you that there's not going to be much for that day because at some point during this trip, we got sick. When you travel to countries like Turkey is one of them, it is pretty common that you're going to get an upset stomach. And unfortunately, that happened to us for our last day here. And that's just kind of one of the hazards of travel. I enjoyed all of the food that I ate. We did only drink bottled water, but still, unfortunately, something was wrong. And we didn't get to do much on our final day. But I will share a little bit about what we did before wrapping this video up. Okay, like I said, most of day 4 was just spent resting and recovering, but we did venture out. We went to go see some of the palaces, but ended up not going inside because they were too expensive and we weren't feeling it. But we did go see the Mosque, which was right there on the edge of the water, and it's a glass mosque, so you could see all the windows and stuff. Is very different from the other ones that we saw. And that wrapped up our travel in Istanbul. Okay, I am back in New York and I wanted to wrap this video up by sharing how my journal came out and all the ephemera that I collected while I was in Istanbul. So by the time I got to Istanbul, I was kind of tired of journaling, tired of collecting stuff. I mean, I journal every day normally, but just like on the road, I felt like I needed to kind of regroup. This was the longest vacation I've ever been on as an adult. I did go on a much longer road trip as a small child, but that's totally different. And this was international. So it's the longest I've ever been out of the United States at a specific time. So it was a lot, especially because Istanbul is so different from anywhere I've ever been before. I do really love to travel, but I've never been anywhere that wasn't in North America, the Caribbean, or Europe before. So going somewhere that is not in one of those places, it's very different. Istanbul was actually, it was technically in Europe, but it's very different. So I spent some time journaling, and I did some journaling on the first couple of days. The first day here, we had 3 full days in Istanbul. So I journaled this day, and then this day I did some journaling on the morning of the 15th and filled it in just very simple. I printed a photo, but I didn't really add any ephemera because I just wanted to get down what happened. And then this day I didn't journal at all. And I don't think I will ever go back and do it. This page will probably just stay blank. The 16th was when we flew home, so that's no longer like travel stuff. I did document what actually happened here, so you can see that. Let me find it on my weekly spread. So I did write down what happened, so I have a recollection of what I did this day for when I go back and do my album, but it's just not as much detail. Here is all the stuff that I collected. So I collected a lot of ephemera while on this vacation, and I'm super excited to use this in my album. For this trip, I just brought these zipper pouches. So these are from Studio Calico, and these are what their 12 by 12 scrapbook kits used to come in. And I just brought 5 of them with me, 1 for each city, to stash stuff in while I was there and sort it out later. So here, let's see, I've got like some stuff from my plane ticket and my airline stuff, because I did fly from Budapest to Istanbul and then I flew home from Istanbul. I have some of their money because they use the Turkish lira. So I did collect a little bit of that, and I will probably put some of this in a separate like money collection, but I might end up with some in my album. Got a receipt here, some business cards, another just receipt. Some of these things like this probably won't get saved, but I will, I don't know, I have it in here for now, so I don't have to like worry about, like while I was there, I wasn't going to think like, oh, I might not want this. I will do that when putting my album together. So here's just another little thing from the Hagia Sophia, which is one of the pretty mosques to see there. This is from like a baklava place. This was from my hotel. This was from a restaurant. They had this like on the napkin, so I saved it, but unfortunately it looks like it got a little bent. There was just like a free map of the city from the hotel, and any like free flyers and stuff, I always try to grab them. This is more from the hotel. This hotel had like tons of random little things. This was from a coffee shop I went to. Here's some more of those things from that restaurant. More money. Another ticket. Some of these things, like I did not actually do these. These were just flyers that were given to me by the hotel, and I just threw them in here. I will probably end up just tossing those because I didn't actually do those things. They had some flyers about Islam because I went to a bunch of the mosques. Here's a ticket for a mosque. It's super pretty. Another thing from the hotel. Here is the pad from the hotel. This one only has a couple pages on it. But I always like grabbing these because it has the logo and you can use them in your journal or scrapbook very easily. Something else from the flight.
this was my Metro card. They have, like, I use their Metro quite a bit, and I accidentally actually left some money on there, unfortunately. But here's something else from the hotel. I don't think I'm ever going to be back in Istanbul to use it, and that's okay. It was like $4 US, I think. So here's a map of Istanbul. This one's actually pretty nice. He circled a bunch of stuff on here from my hotel, so unfortunately I have that on there, but it's still a nice map to have, maybe for a background. Here's some tickets from the Galata Tower. And another ticket, and that was just another flyer. So I did have quite a few flyers and things that the hotel had given us that were things we didn't actually do. So I will probably end up tossing those out or see if there's like specific things I can cut out of them to use. But otherwise, a lot of the stuff will be great for putting together my album. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.